Hello and welcome to the Social Network. Now, yesterday, the BJP released its reject team Rajnath for 2014 and it had a complete RSS stamp all over it. Many of the members included and elevated in the team include young Varun Gandhi, Bharti, Amit Shah and of course Narendra Modi, who's the only chief minister to be on two key panels. So on the Social Network today, we asked Saffron agenda, will it backfire or translate into votes? Before we introduce our panelists for the day, let's quickly listen into what Gagan has sent us.
Of promoting, especially those people who have charges of communal right against them, this is something that is going to backfire for sure. This is also a way where the common mass is not a fool. They understand what's going on, you see, and this is a card that they cannot play for long.
All right, joining us on the show today, we've got with us Harsh Gupta, who's a Mint columnist. He joins us from Singapore. Harsh, thank you for joining us. In the studio, we've got Sambit Patra. He's the BJP spokesperson. We've also got Shamsul Islam. He is, as he likes to call himself, researcher of religious politics. And Tessie, who is from the Congress. I want to start out with you, Sambit, straight away with you. This is Hindutva politics. Clearly, this has got the RSS stamp all over it, that entire list. Do you think it's going to work this time around? And that's probably why it's being done.
Kashish, it depends as to how you define saffron, as to how you define Hindutva. I believe, according to me, and I believe according to my party, saffron is defined as a color of sacrifice, and Hindutva means India first. So I believe with India first and sacrifice, the party is really going to turn heads and get votes.
Okay, we've already got somebody on the panel laughing. Tessie, why are you laughing?
You look at the reject team that the BJP set up. You have Narendra Modi, who's responsible for bhindi, for milk, for everything, but for the massacre of 2002, the worst massacre modern India seen. You have Amit Shah, a gun-trotting home minister who was happy bumping people off. You have Varun Gandhi, a hate monger, whose ideology is to cut off the hands of the minorities and God knows the necks and what else. And then of course you have Vinay Katiyar and Bharti. So you have the four pillars of hate, of intolerance, and the central pillar of Narendra Modi. And this is so divisive for India. I mean, it's a disaster.
But Sambit, so just before I come to you, Sambit, I just want to ask you, this whether you call it saffron or you call it Hindutva, but this kind of politics has been tried by BJP so many times now. I mean, let's look at the most recent example. Even last year, you brought in Bharti as your face for the UP elections and hoping that it would bring you. But that's been your lowest tally in UP just in last year. Why won't you learn your lessons?
Let me remind you that even Rahul Gandhi was brought in UP the same time that Bharti was brought in, and we saw the disaster that Congress faced.
I'm sorry.
I was not interjecting. I was not interjecting.
Okay,
please,
yes,
it's short and sweet.
1 second, yes.
And secondly, what you call as disaster, I believe, is a derogatory word for democracy, because Narendra Modi, right now, my able friend called him a disaster in the team. But I believe he's the one who had brought a thumping majority a third time in a state like Gujarat. He has become synonymous with
Let me quickly respond to that. Dr. Patra forgets the Congress, apart from the Samajwadi Party, was the only party that increased its vote share in the UP elections. Number one. Number two, I never called Narendra Modi a disaster. I called his politics a disaster. The politics of Congress is not personality driven, it's ideology driven. His ideology is a disaster for India.
Shamsulji.
I believe my first reaction to what Dr. Patra said about Hindutva is that by putting that team in front, you have made the job of the Congress very easy, It's very easy because Hindutva you have tried in politics many times and lost miserably. Secondly, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that Hindutva is not something which is only against Muslims, is not something, it's against India. I will just tell you, please go back to your documents, that when Indian Constituent Assembly decided about the tricolor as our national flag, yes, your organ, English organ, organized a wrote that three colors is an evil. Three color is an evil and Hindus will never accept this flag. So you are like Islamists in Bangladesh and Pakistan trying to undo the country, and Indian voters will not accept that. And
okay, let's ask one person who's potentially an Indian voter. Harsh, I don't know if you're going to be voting in the upcoming elections, but as somebody who's watching all of these developments take place in India from Singapore, what do you make of the team that BJP has just released yesterday? I mean, it's a given fact that Shivraj Singh Chauhan is performing pretty well in his state. He's a successful chief minister by any standards. candidates. There are leaders in the BJP like Jaswant Singh and Yashwant Sinha who have, done pretty well for the team and moved away from the RSS agenda. And all three of them have been kicked out or simply not given enough importance in the team.
I think there's definitely an element of counter mobilization here, which the BJP is trying. There's no doubt about that. But having said that, much of the analysis by your esteemed panelists so far has also been simplistic. The idea that Mr. Modi represents Hindutva per se is not true, because in Gujarat itself, he's battling a very genuinely Hindutva driven VHP and RSS and Bajrang Dal, and he and Amit Shah and other people who are being tagged as far right. I mean, they definitely have civil liberty violations on them.